In the headlines, federal government withdraws contempt charges against organized labor. Senate approves 45 ministerial nominees, defers the confirmation of El-Rufai and others. Makodi community protests lack of power supply. And on the foreign scene, Nigerian military names economist as prime minister. Hello there, good afternoon and welcome to Trust News Update. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. We begin the updates here in Abuja as the federal government says it has withdrawn the contempt of court proceedings against the organized labor for embarking on a nationwide protest last week. In a letter to the lead counsel of the NLC, Femi Falana, announced the withdrawal of the suit as the organized labor had threatened to embark on a nationwide strike action from August 14th if the federal government fails to withdraw its contempt of court charges against the unions. Now, the screening of ministerial nominee Festus Keyamo caused a ruckus in the Nigerian Senate on Monday as lawmakers debated whether or not to continue with his screening exercise. A point of order raised by Senator Darlington Nwokocha underscored the need for the Senate to revisit public utterances made by the former minister before he's been screened by the Senate. However, after a closed session, the Senate cleared the nominee after Festus Keyamo tendered an apology to the Nigerian Senate.
Citing Section 88B of the 1999 Constitution as amended, Senator Nwokocha, representing Abia Central, observed that Keyamo had in the last administration refused to appear before the Senate to explain how the sum of 52 billion naira appropriated for Nigerians was spent. He accused Keyamo of disrespecting the Ninth Assembly by refusing to appear before it for questioning over how the said sum was shared at 20,000 naira each for beneficiaries. He also reminded his colleagues on how Keyamo had accused the Ninth Assembly of being corrupt.
And I'm happy the way the president has sent so many people, great people here. We have questioned them, passed through the screening, wonderful people, and we're ready. As much as they are ready to work with the system, we are ready to clear them.
Senate President Godswill Akpabio thereafter subjected the motion to a voice vote. The lawmakers were, however, divided on the matter as the senators could not reach a conclusion. The Senate President, Akpabio, then asked that they go into closed session for further deliberations on the matter.
That I do support that this nominee should be stepped down pending when he decides that the National Assembly has that right to inquire into the workings of a minister and his ministry.
Those who are in support of this closed session as moved say aye. Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it.
Speaking after the Senate resumed from closed session, Keyamo tendered an apology, saying the apology is without reservation. He said the entire register of the beneficiaries of the Special Public Works and their details, including their account number and BVN, are with the National Directorate of Employment.
Subsequently, there were so many hearings, budget defense and all that we attended on a very convivial atmosphere. So the apology is without reservation.
Senator Godia Akwashiki urged his colleagues to accept Keyamo's apology. Senator Ali Ndume thereafter moved the motion that the Senate do accept the apology and allow him leave the Senate. Ndume's motion was seconded by Senator Barinadi Bingi, a PDP senator from Rivers State. Akpabio thereafter asked the nominee to take a bow and go. Rashidat Yusuf, for Trust TV News.
Staying with the National Assembly, the Nigerian Senate has confirmed 45 ministers designate for President Bola Tinubu's cabinet, with the exception of former Governor of Kano State, Nasir El-Rufai, Abubakar Al-Ladi, and Stella Oketete. The Senate had screened all of the excluded candidates alongside the 45 other confirmed nominees. Now, during the confirmation on Monday, the Senate President Godswill Akpabio explained that the 3 nominees that were not confirmed yet are still undergoing security checks. The confirmation of the nominees was done at the Committee of the Whole, following which the Senate resolved into plenary, where the 45 nominees were confirmed with the notable exceptions of the former Kano State Governor Oketete and Abubakar Aladi from Taraba State.
The Senate has so far approved and confirmed the nomination of about 45 ministers out of the total nominees of 48 ministerial ministers sent to us by the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The others are still awaiting security clearance.
Well, in the Green Chamber, the main protagonist in the ongoing job racketeering scandal rocking the Federal Character Commission, Haruna Kolo, of the IPPIS Desk office in the commission, has accused the chairperson of the commission, Muhida Dankaka, of being the brain behind the job fraud in the commission. Now, this is as the House Committee continues its investigation to unravel mismanagement of ministries, departments, and agencies of government. The report.
The committee room was full to capacity with representatives of government agencies invited to give account of the level of complicity and the alleged job racketeering rocking their agencies.
I have my evidences against them. I have my evidences.
Haruna Kolo, the man at the center of the whole saga, appeared suddenly at the investigative panel to spill it all to amazement of those present. He accused the chairman of the Federal Character Commission of being the brain behind the job racket and using him as a front.
Show is the PA. He served as the PA to the Travel Commission and driver. She instructed me to liaise with him. So if there's any, as a desk officer of IPPIS HR model, I'm responsible of taking whoever is recruited in federal character to IPPIS for capturing.
He said his numerous bank accounts were also used to house the said monies collected, which is delivered by withdrawal through point of sales POS for onward delivery to the FCC chairman in her home. Other commissioners also refuted the allegations of the chairman.
In the document the chairman provided to this honorable committee, there was no picture, no date, no name of MDA that I went with the so-called fake commissioners.
There was nowhere in the petition where it was stated directly by implied terms that I promised the owner of the said property that I was going to use slots to pay.
The allegations were ever refuted by the executive chairman of the commission, who also accused Haruna Kolo of lying against her.
The chairman said it was fake, and she even referred those later to disciplinary committee. Our own concern here is to be just.
The chairman of the committee, however, assured all parties in the matter of a fair hearing and appealed to them to maintain decorum pending the next sitting.
How comes you take letter to an agency, the agency rejected? They asked you to take the letter again and the agency collected the letter. Something is missing there, and we'll get to the root of the matter.
The committee adjourned to Tuesday for continuation of the ongoing investigation, with other agencies expected to make submissions.
In Oyo State, Governor Seyi Makinde has called on leaders and members of various labor unions across the state to become wary of elements of destabilization who are bent on truncating the peace witnessed across the state. The governor gave this advice in Ibadan during the course of a reconciliation meeting to end a week-long industrial action that has paralyzed socio-economic activities over the last 7 days. The report.
It's the final halt to a week-long industrial impasse between the labor movement in Oyo State and the state government on the other hand. Union leaders are here at loggerheads with local authorities and have failed to agree on issues bordering on the review of salaries and pensions, payment of outstanding deductions, leave bonuses, poor working conditions, amongst other contentious issues. After 7 days of downing tools, the governor and his team are meeting with members of various unions. At the meeting, Governor Makinde assured of improved welfare for workers and pensioners and also promised to do more to make their lives more meaningful and rewarding.
Let us remember that this is our state. Anywhere else that we can call home.
There was a big gap of communication between us and the government. And kudos to the SSD as well. She summoned a meeting yesterday. We were together and we've mapped out. I'll be having the quarterly meetings. Either the governor is around or not.
The governor had met with labor union leaders in a closed-door section where they both resolved to sheathe their swords and put the interest of workers as priority.
And in Kano, Governor Abba Yusuf has sworn in the first female chief judge of the state, Justice DJ Audu Aboki, with an appeal for support from the judiciary in Kano State. Governor Yusuf urged the judiciary to support his administration's demolition and anti-graft policies to enable it recover public assets allegedly acquired illegally by the immediate past administration in Kano State. He spoke on Monday while swearing in the new chief judge in Kano. The governor explained that his administration's desire to demolish illegal structures and recover public properties is in the interest and development of Kano State. He describes the relationship between the judiciary, the legislature, and the executive as non-competitive but complementary, promising to continue to maintain a cordial relationship amongst the three arms of government. Responding, Justice Aboki says she was grateful to God for the opportunity and promises to serve with integrity, honesty, and justice, as well as do all her possible best to ensure that the rule of law is always adhered to. Now, the Brigade Commander, 23rd Armored Command, Brigadier General Muhammad Gambo, has denied reports that a female soldier killed an army officer, Lieutenant Bitrus Zira, in Adamawa State in the wake of a curfew being imposed by the Adamawa State government. General Muhammad Gambo, who stated this in a telephone conversation, says the incident didn't happen. According to reports, a female soldier whose name was given as Lance Corporal Nkiru had been harassing motorists who were on essential duties during the days of the curfew at the fire service roundabout in Yola, the Adamawa State capital. Now, in other news, the Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Emmanuel Ogala, says the Nigerian Navy is taking the war against oil theft and economic sabotage in the maritime domain to criminals in order to end the menace across the Niger Delta region. Admiral Ogala spoke during a familiarization tour of naval facilities across Rivers State. The report.
Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Emmanuel Ogala, said the Navy will improve its surveillance capabilities and beam its searchlight more on the creeks and riverine areas where illegal oil bunkering activities take place more. He emphasized that the move will enable the Navy to strike the criminals even before they go into the act.
Then with respect to what we are going to do, we are going to improve our surveillance capability because we want to be able to strike the criminals even before they go into the act. We want to arrest them while they are planning, while they are thinking about it. So we don't want to be on the defensive. We want to take the war to the criminals. Well, the issue of allegation of involvement of our personnel in oil theft, this is the age of social media. And many people who do not even have the full details, they just put something up there. But if you go through some of those allegations and you investigate them, you find out that the basis of those allegations are unfounded. For instance, somebody will just see a vessel somewhere, he will say, oh, the military are involved. He doesn't even know whether there's proper approval from NNPC for that vessel to load. But he will put it on social media that he saw some military men on board the vessel and that vessel is engaged in illegal bunkering without having the correct information. But whatever the case may be, anytime we receive such allegation, we investigate it properly.
Vice Admiral Ogala, while reacting to the allegations of involvement of personnel in oil theft, noted that such claims are unfounded adding that several investigations carried out showed that most of the allegations are not true.
So far, our investigations have been showing that most of the allegations are not true. But each time we still respond to them by investigating properly so that if there's element of truth in it, we hold the person responsible and we apply the law according to the Armed Forces Act. It has a very severe consequence, ranging from imprisonment to dismissal, which we apply on. So there have been such cases in the past and appropriate action were taken. But I bet you more than 90-something% of those allegations are just based on social media hype without proper background.
Among the areas the Chief of Naval Staff visited were onshore facilities at the Federal Ocean Terminal, One, Naval Training College, One, Forward Operating Base, Boni, Nigerian Basic Training School, One, Naval Medical Center, Nigerian Navy Hydrography School at the Naval Shipyard Limited, Borikiri, Port Harcourt.
You're watching the news update on Trust TV. Coming up ahead, we'll tell you the story about a community that has been living without power supply for months on end. Details of this and many more stories coming up ahead after the break. Welcome back and thank you very much for staying with us on Trust News Updates. Here's a quick reminder of our top stories at this hour. The federal government has withdrawn its contempt charges against the organized labor in Nigeria. Nigerian Senate approves 45 ministerial nominees, defers the confirmation of Nasir El-Rufai and 2 others. Now, internally displaced persons have been encouraged to see personal hygiene as a necessity to enable them live healthy lives in the camps. Members of the Editorial and Publicity Committee, a development service of the NYSC stated this while on a sensitization and familiarization tour of the IDP camp in Shuari in Maiduguri, the Borno State capital. Adamu Gulde reports.
It is often said that clean lines is next to good lines. As such, personal hygiene, especially maintaining a clean body, clothes, and one's immediate environment, preserves overall health and well-being. Speaking at the sensitization ground, the Editorial and Publicity CDS Group President Nuhu Joshua, represented by the Group Secretary Talatu Daniel, said the personal hygiene for internally displaced persons' children sensitization is necessitated by the current realities of life. The Editorial and Publicity CDS Group President said carrying out such sensitization program is part of their services to humanity, urging the children to remain clean and imbibe the habit of washing their hands and taking baths regularly.
To sensitize the younger ones about hygiene, that's personal hygiene, how to keep themselves clean, how to keep their environment clean, and how to go about taking care of their bodies.
One of the speakers, Momo Jimo Rashid, dwelled extensively on the importance of personal hygiene, saying it is very paramount for one to always wash and clean the external part of his or her body, obtained for healthy growth and development. Also contributing, Patial Alfred, who spoke on health benefits of keeping young people clean as part of personal hygiene. He identified acts such as non-washing of hairs, particularly attachments, lack of taking baths, lack of poor washing of hands. Speaking on behalf of Shuari IDP's camp, the vice chairman of the camp, Ishaku Amos, lauded efforts of the Editorial and Publicity Community Development Services Group of the National Youth Corps, describing the program as timely and beneficial, especially now that the rain season has set in.
This NYSC, they give them free help now. So we are very happy with them because nobody like them help us now apart from them. So we are very, very happy.
Climax of the event was the demonstrations on proper washing of hairs, hair plaiting, barbing, and distribution of confectionaries and soaps as part of the sensitization program. From Maiduguri, Adamu Gulde, Trust TV News.
To Benue State now, where Demekpe community in Makurdi, the state capital, has been without electricity supply for months. Members of the community have staged a protest to demand the restoration of electricity power supply to their community. Which, from Makurdi, here's Jimmy Azandi with the rest of the story.
The protesting youth with placards and green leaves expressed their displeasure for living without electricity in the last 6 months.
That this particular transformer that is serving us now is not even our transformer. And this, our own very transformer that has been serving us, has served us for 47 years.
Youth in the community who barricaded the entrance gates of Makurdi Power Distribution Office were addressed by the management of JEDC and the NSCDC.
And we want to say we are very sorry for all the embarrassment and the suffering you have gone through. We are quite aware and we are actually going to work towards ensuring stable supply in your community. So I just want to thank you for your patience and your understanding.
The protesters later returned to the community, anticipating quick restoration of electricity supply.
From their discussion, it has been agreed 3 o'clock. The team of JED will be in Demekpe to assess the capacity of those 2 or 3 transformers that are working. That work we are saying is not a work of one day. It's not something they will come there today and you start expecting light today.
Now let's turn our attention to developments on the international scene, and we begin in Nigeria, where 2 weeks after the military took over power, the coup plotters have named former Economy Minister Ali Mohammed Lamin Zeni as the country's new Prime Minister. A spokesman for the military junta made the announcement in a televised broadcast on Monday night. Lamin Zeni was formerly the Minister of Economy and Finance for several years in the cabinet of then-President Mamadou Tanja, who was ousted in 2010 and most recently worked as an economist for the Africa Development Bank in Chad, according to a Nigerian media report. At the end of July, the military ousted the democratically elected Mohamed Bazoum and suspended the Nigerian constitution in the country of 26 million inhabitants. Under Mohamed Bazoum, Niger has been one of the last strategic partners of the West in the fight against the advancement of Islamist terrorists in the Sahel region. An ultimatum from the Economic Community of West African States to the coup plotters to reinstate Bazoum expired over the weekend. Otherwise, ECOWAS would take measures that could include force, according to the ultimatum. Now, the prime ministers of ECOWAS member states or presidents will now meet in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, on Thursday for an extraordinary summit on the next phase and line of action. At least 2 people were killed, hundreds of thousands of premises were left without power, and thousands of flights were cancelled after intense storms lashed much of the eastern United States. Millions of people on Monday were under severe weather alerts, including tornado watches, as rain, strong winds, and hail swept across the eastern parts of the United States along nearly the entire eastern seaboard from Alabama to New York. The National Weather Service had predicted a, quote, moderate risk of hazardous storms with gusts of 80 miles per hour, which is roughly about 130 kilometers per hour. The storm spread was massive, with tornado watches and warnings posted across 10 states from Tennessee to New York. As much of the severe weather danger subsided into the late evening, some areas faced flood threats as it continued to rain. All right, that's it. You're up to date with the latest news stories at this hour. For more content, feel free to follow us across our social media platforms and visit trusttv.com for more news. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. Thank you for your time and company.